Hey guys, Wallen Customs here, and today we are taking a look at the Marvel Legends Man-Thing Build-A-Figure right here. And today we are going to assemble him, take a look at him, and stuff like that. But before I ever assemble a Build-A-Figure, I take a look at the joints, I take a look at the different limbs, and just see what is stiff, what needs to be loosened, because this is probably the best opportunity that you have right now to take a look at the joints to see if they're all good and stuff like that. Sometimes they're straight out of the box, they have never been moved, so having the whole limb at your disposal might be the best opportunity. This one is a little bit stiff, so I'm going to loosen up a little bit. Get it moving. Sometimes it just needs to get moved a little bit to get it loosened up. But yeah, but also this is a great opportunity to just even look at each limb and look at the detail. The upper body is pretty nice. Actually, it is. There is a base hard plastic body underneath, but on the outside there is a rubber top right there, as you can see. And this is basically giving a nice texture. It's a nice soft texture, like a rubber texture. And you can see the detail, the paintwork, the sculpting, which is really nice on this. Looks pretty good. Alright, so let's start building it right now. Alright, so first off, let's take a look at the legs. I actually want to point this out first before I even start. Obviously, this is Marvel Legends. We all expect pretty decent articulation. But I was looking at the hip joints, and they are T-jointed hips, it looks like, but it might be a little bit restricted, or maybe not. Or they don't go exactly straight up. They go a little bit to the side. This is the sculpting. It looks like it's making that happen. But we'll see once the leg is on. Maybe it might be a little bit easier. Alright, so let's put the legs on first. The right leg, of course. The proper one, and we'll stick that in. There you go. Looks pretty nice. It would really suck if you put the wrong one on. These aren't the easiest to get off once they're on sometimes. There you go. It's a nice click. And he is forming. Alright, let me go back up. Now the arms, the right arm right here. The proper arm, I mean. Simple enough. Get this one in. This one seems to be a little bit tighter than I like, but maybe once it's in and it has the whole base, it might be easier to maneuver. Looks good. Now his ugly head. There you got Man-Thing. Alright, so here is Man-Thing all built together in all his glory, and he looks fantastic, I have to admit. I also have to admit, I don't know that much about Man-Thing. Honestly, I do not. I know Swamp Thing from DC. Man-Thing, not that much, to be honest. I assume they are very similar in character, perhaps, but I don't want to really assume that because I could be wrong. But other than that, looking at him as a figure himself, he is fantastic looking. He is huge. I know there was a previous Toy Biz version, which a lot of people do like. This is a little bit different. Obviously, this is using the more Hasbro base that we're used to for big figures. So he's a little bit more robust, a little buffer, bigger, obviously, too. So, but let's talk about the more important thing is the sculpt. Now, the sculpt on this is fantastic. You can't deny that. Everything looks really nice. The paintwork is pretty good too. There's a lot of shading in it, even between the lines, you want to call that, of the body, which looks really nice. Going down, you see a lot of small hidden details in it as well. Like sometimes there might be a little bit leaves here and there. I don't know if you want to call this right there. You have some. I don't want to call it mushrooms. I forget what it's called, but it's growing all over the body. Different parts also. Very nice. It's probably one of the most detailed looking figures from Hasbro in a long time because, aside from Groot, I guess, right? Groot is very similar to this too. But I think this might be a little bit more complicated looking. Well, we'll do a size comparison with Groot and we'll see how they fare next to each other. But yeah, going down here, he does have toes, which I find interesting. Alright, so taking a look at the head sculpt right here, and he looks fantastic, handsome, beautiful man right there, if he is a man, whatever he is. But like I said before, I don't have that much knowledge of this character, so I don't even know what the heck these things are. Is that supposed to be some kind of hair? I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't care for the figure that much. I do recognize that this is a very nice looking figure though, very nicely sculpted, beautiful looking, great stuff. Take a look at the back right here. He has a pretty much of a hunchback, a lot of muscle I guess, but the sculpting on it is fantastic. Work of art. I don't know if that's supposed to be there, that whole. I actually have two of these, so maybe I'll compare it later, the torsos. But yeah, like I said before, I do not care that much about this figure, so I will be selling both of my Man-Things. One assembled, as you can see, and the other one will be in pieces. So stay tuned for that post, if I do post it. Alright guys, size comparison time. Now I have a lot of them to go through, so bear with me right now. But I want to start with these two in particular because first you have Groot right here and you have Rhino. With the ones that I have for the Build-A-Figures, I believe these two have the most sculpting on their bodies. At least most complicated sculpting, in my opinion. You even look at Rhino, you know, he looks pretty plain, nothing crazy, but if you really look at his skin, the Rhino skin, there's a lot of detail in there, there really is. So it looks pretty nice in my opinion. I think a lot of people take that one for granted. And then you take a look at Groot's, and Groot, his paintwork isn't that spectacular, but I think there's a lot of detail in the sculpting, especially with all the branches and the ridges and stuff like that, so it looks pretty good. And then you have Man-Thing, which I think is a step higher. They're getting a little bit more complicated and a little bit more detail. He has a lot more ridges, a lot more shading in it, different colors as well, so I think it is a great step in the direction that Hasbro is going in when it comes to these Build-A-Figures. So other than that, here is the size comparison. So he's a pretty big guy. He's not as tall as Groot obviously, but he's around the same size, give or take, as Rhino. Rhino obviously is a little more thicker in mass and width, but Man-Thing has a pretty nice frame, as you can see. He must work out. Alright, next up right here we have Onslaught and the Juggernaut right here, which are really big figures themselves. I like them a lot. Not as much crazy detail in their body per se, but they don't really need it. But as you can see, as I was saying before, that's why I started off with Rhino and Groot, because, you know, they actually are pretty nicely sculpted figures, and I think a lot of people take that for granted. But as you can see right here, here they are with these two big guys with Man-Thing, so yeah. Next up right here, we actually have Doomsday, just for friendly reference right there, and we have the Build-A-Figure of Thanos. Now for next size comparison, here is majority of the wave right here, minus Blade, because I'm working on his lower body right now. But as you can see, you know, he's a pretty decent sized figure, big guy. No complaints here really. You know, I'm not really sure how big he's supposed to be, but he's clearly a pretty big specimen, so pretty good. Now for another size comparison, here is my Red Hood gang right there, and of course Spider-Man right here. So you get a nice base and understanding of how he is compared to some previous normal sized figures. And for last size comparison, here he is of some other figures. Now this is the SH Figure Arts Hulk right here. We have Captain America Sam Wilson and my custom Thor right there using a Masters of the Universe base right there. But yeah, let's take a look at with him and the Hulk. That's pretty interesting right there. This is a pretty decent sized Hulk figure, of course, as you can see. The light right there. Squaring them off side by side. You know, he's actually a lot bigger than the Hulk, it looks like. The Hulk can stand his ground. I'm not really sure how strong Man-Thing is. He's a big guy. But maybe he's not as strong as the Hulk, so there you go. Alright, so closing in on the figure. Like I said before, I might not know that much about Man-Thing, but I do know action figures, and this is a fantastic looking action figure. I think if you're a big fan of either Build-A-Figures from Marvel, or want to expand your collection, or maybe you are a Man-Thing fan, you will love this figure. The sculpting is great. The paintwork is awesome. Even like look in the back, you see all this detail, because there's a little bit of a black wash in between there, so you can see all of that detail, which is nicely highlighted from the paintwork, and honestly, it's pretty good. I have to admit that. There's a couple of things I want to bring up though before I end this video. Quality control wise, QC wise, you know, it's a pretty big figure. It's not as solid as some of the other ones, However, he will hold up. He's pretty good. All the joints feel pretty good. You connected all together yourself. It feels pretty nice and decent. The arms though, so like I said before, this figure has a lot of rubber on him, especially in the outer shell, obviously, but sometimes in the joints as well. So for like the biceps, they do feel a little bit wobbly in this, if that's even a word. They wobble a little bit. Not much of a big deal though, but you do have that little bit of a Hasbro joint feeling there. However, the good thing is the shoulders are awesome. They move up all the way, go down, rotate really nice and smooth, so you won't have a problem there. Sometimes when you have stuck shoulders, there's a lot of friction that happens along the bicep when you're moving it. So that's really good to have good shoulders at least, so you won't have a lot of friction on the biceps at all. And like I said before, the biceps do wobble a little bit, but it's not a big deal. Also the wrists, let me take this off. So the wrist inside there is rubber right there, so it doesn't have the most solid connection, like a suction in there, so the hands might come off once in a while if you move it around too much sometimes. You can see it come out just a little bit. You just stick it back in like that. Not a big deal, just something to point out though. But other than that, fantastic figure. I like it. I give it an A+, definitely, for a Build-A-Figure. He is massive, he is big, and that's all that we want, right, from a Build-A-Figure. Alright guys, so that's about it. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was helpful. And like I said before, I will be selling this along with another version that's not put together, so you can have that enjoyment. So stay tuned for when I sell that. And that's about it guys, so thanks for watching. Like always, comment, criticize, subscribe, do whatever you want to pay attention. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at awildandcustoms.com. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up.